Hey everyone, I'm here today to deliver the final Forza Horizon 4 car review. This series, now on its 21st episode, has bounced around a bit, and I'll admit I've struggled to find its place among my content schedule, but what started as a small side project to fill the void between bigger releases has turned into one of my favorite videos to make. And now, with Horizon 4 coming to a close, there is no better car to bookend our series with than Horizon 4's iconic cover car, the McLaren Senna. This car is nothing short of an engineering marvel in real life. Built on a fully carbon fiber monocoque platform, the Senna delivers nearly 800 horsepower stock from its factory twin-turbo V8 while weighing under 2,700 pounds. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds and a quarter mile in under 10. Named after Ayrton Senna, the legendary Brazilian F1 driver, this McLaren has some big shoes to fill, and being the cover car for Horizon 4, it's got a reputation to uphold in-game as well. So let's take it out for a test drive here in the stock configuration, and although we normally test drive our cars on the streets and keep things relatively tame, this car was built to crush lap times, so we're going to test drive it on a track, and there's only one place we can do that. The Senna, here in its stock configuration, is still a blast to drive. Being mid-engine and rear-wheel drive, you could expect some floaty feeling over the front wheels, but the Senna delivers plenty enough downforce alone to keep those tires glued to the road. It's incredibly responsive and maintains its snappy turn-in throughout the entirety of any corner. There are not many other cars in the Horizon 4 lineup that can pull as many lateral Gs as the Senna. This car can turn, and it can accelerate pretty quick as well. The Senna is rowdy, it's light, and the twin turbos kick in early and hard, giving you a very smooth power band, but one that still needs some proper throttle management. Being effectively a road-legal, purpose-built track car, the Senna does need to be driven appropriately. The stiff suspension behaves if you're smooth with your cornering, but make the wrong correction and you'll start sliding. Luckily though, even when the rear end does get loose on the Senna, it still remains pretty stable, and as long as you don't slide outside the corner, you can grip up quick and get back to racing. Even though the stock Senna does sport nearly 800 horsepower, it still feels a bit underpowered and outclassed in S2, so we'll probably be focusing on that when we get to the tuning and building. So, stock, the Senna comes in at 977 PI, close already to the top of S2, but we've got a bit of room to work with. So let's take it back to the shop and see what we can do with it. When it comes to some of these supercars in Horizon 4, you can expect to see less customization in areas where most sports cars normally have the full range, like in engine, platform, and drivetrain. Happily, the Senna definitely isn't lacking in the engine upgrades. However, when it comes to things like clutch or tires, this McLaren is already equipped with the best options, so no need to upgrade. I am of course always sad to see the lack of any tire spacing options, but the default setup isn't too bad. We also get a slightly more interesting than normal front splitter, and a just as bad as normal rear wing. Some stock rear wings do allow for aero tuning, however, funny enough, this one doesn't, so if you want to unlock rear aero tuning, you do need to throw on the Forza wing. As far as conversions go, we don't have any engine swap options, which I think is for the best. However, we can still swap it to all-wheel drive, which is very popular for meta tunes, but we don't do that here. Alright, so all we can really shoot for here is an S2 class road tune, and I'll be right back with that. And we are back now with an S2 class road tune, of course, for the McLaren Senna, now making 917 horsepower and weighing in at 2,815 pounds, still of course in its rear-wheel drive configuration. So when it comes to the build itself, really all we did was add some power. Like I said before, it already handles great, but was just lacking in the engine department compared to other S2 cars. Now for the tuning, there were a few main focuses, the first being camber adjustment. I really wanted to get this dialed in so that the most amount of tire was contacting the road while cornering. Next, most rear-wheel drive cars suffer from oversteer, and a good way to compensate for this is by stiffening up the front of the car or softening the rear. The downside, of course, is that this reduces your general ability to turn in. Luckily, the Senna does not suffer from this and can keep a softer front end, allowing for some really impressive cornering at speed. And then finally, we bumped up the differential lock to make sure that added power was going to the right wheel at the right time, helping to further propel the Senna around a corner. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Senna is already an incredible machine in its stock format. What we've done here with this build is really just turn up the dials to 11. Everything is just that little bit better. The Senna is hands down one of the best and most fun cars to drive in S2. It handles so unbelievably well, even considering the fact that it is, of course, still rear-wheel drive. With that big rear wing acting as an air brake, you're able to stop on a dime, you're able to accelerate so quickly because of how light it is, and you can really just lock into corners with incredible amounts of speed. But enough talking about it, it's time to get down to numbers, and that means pulling up the lap time board. And you will actually notice here that the Senna is already at our number 2 position on the S2 leaderboard. Even though we've never done a review of it, I actually used the Senna to populate the time board back when we were just starting the series out. Now, the Senna time that you already see here was set using a popular meta tune from back when the game first came out. All-wheel drive swapped and built for online racing. Here today, we're going to be competing against that in my own, more realistically tuned rear-wheel drive setup. Needless to say, my own Senna had a tough challenge ahead of it. So, how did it do? Well, I may have pushed this Senna a bit harder than I usually drive cars around our track, but by the end, the McLaren Senna lapped our test track in 1:59.791. Not only gaining a victory over its meta-tuned variant, but also taking the number 1 spot on our entire car review leaderboard. Now, it's worth mentioning, of course, that there are faster cars out there, especially if they're meta-tuned for online. But this series isn't about the best, fastest cars in the game. This is about taking a handful of fun, maybe iconic or maybe obscure cars, building real tunes for them, and seeing how they all stack up. Now, let's see how the Senna stacks up on the Hokie score. Starting at the top with looks, I'm giving the Senna an easy 10 here. Interestingly enough, I've learned that a lot of people don't like how this car looks. Personally though, I think it's almost perfect. For a McLaren, it still has a lot of iconic McLaren styling, while also being incredibly unique and separating itself from the rest of McLaren's lineup. The Senna just gives off this feel and look that it's supposed to be an important car, and it is. Now for the sound, I found this one a bit hard to judge. As far as Horizon 4 goes, I think it's one of the better sounds. I actually like a lot of the McLaren sounds in Horizon. However, I just don't really think the Senna is that good sounding of a car in general. So that being said, it kind of gets a middle of the road score for me. I think it sounds good, but it's just not one of the better sounding cars out there. Now for the Senna's fun score, it's another easy 10. The Senna is absolutely one of the most enjoyable cars you can drive in Horizon 4, and honestly, there's not much more I can say about it that hasn't already been said in the past 8 or so minutes. Now for the Senna's competitive scores. I think most of these should be fairly self-explanatory, but I do want to mention that the rally score is specifically a 3 because in rainy or snowy conditions, the Senna actually still performs fairly well on road. For its online score, the Senna I feel is never the best choice, but it's always a pretty good and pretty safe choice. It does really well in some PR stunts, and even if you take it online, a good driver can still generally keep up with the faster cars like the CCGT. Now let's move over to the right side of the board. For flexibility, we end up with a score of 4.2 out of 10 for the Senna, which makes sense. It's definitely purpose-built, not a jack of all trades. Now for its style bonus, I think the fact that this is Forza Horizon 4's legendary cover car means it has to get a 5 by default. But even taking that out of the equation, this is still a badass car, and I will never be upset to see one of these at a meet or on the road. This brings us to a final Hokie score for the McLaren Senna of 65.2. Taking the number 5 spot on our Hokie score leaderboard, just above another great, the Singer DLS. 10 minutes into this video and 3 years into Horizon 4, I shouldn't need to tell you that you should go and drive the McLaren Senna. It's an incredible car and absolutely deserving of Horizon 4's cover. And with that, our final Horizon 4 car review comes to an end. Now, this is definitely not the end of car reviews for good. Once Horizon 5 drops, we will be bringing back the car review series. So I hope you're looking forward to that, and if you have any ideas on things you'd like to see added to the series, let me know. Horizon 5 is a great time to refresh the series as a whole and take a new look at what you guys are interested in seeing. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.